Hello, future physios, and welcome back to yet another episode of the PhysioSchool Podcast, your guide to becoming a physiotherapist. My name is Anthony Pinto da Costa, and today I'm joined with a great man, a stupendous physiotherapist, and one of the world's newest dog dads, Mr. Reed Vandervluten. Reed, what's going on, man?
That would be the smoothest intro I've heard you do. That was just silky. Really good. Absolutely. It's good to be back on here. It's been a long time since we recorded a pod. We got a new background. Mountains looking nice right now. So, yeah, I'm this one. How about you? How are you doing?
I'm good, man. I'm good. And you alluded to it. It's been a bit, and I'm happy to be back on. And I'm going to shoulder pretty much all that blame. For those of you who don't know, just moved out to Vancouver, British Columbia. It was a big move, so you know things have been moving pretty quickly in my life. So we had to take a bit of a break, but now we're here after the hiatus, and I'm happy to be back on with you, Reed.
So is it true you're healthier now that you live? Like, I know you were healthy in Ontario. You're an active guy, eat right, but like I hear the air is different there. That's the thing.
It's a bit different. It's a bit different. I'm happy to be
For
here.
3 weeks.
I'll say maybe my health score just went up 1 point, but yeah, definitely. Anyways, guys,
Good to hear.
let's get into the reason why we're all here today, which is to listen to a couple of awesome current physiotherapy students at the University of Toronto to speak about their experience in the program so far. And we think, or we strongly believe, that both of these studs deserve an individual introduction of their own. So I'll do the honors of bringing in our first guest, who is actually someone I had the pleasure of being a clinical instructor for at Credit Valley Hospital in Mississauga, Ontario, during his second last placement. And let me tell you, this guy absolutely rocked this placement and made my life a whole lot easier, because by the end of it, not even gonna lie to you, this guy was basically doing my job for me. And that's exactly where you want your student to get to by the end of the placement. So without further ado, I'd like to welcome in Sudbury, Ontario's finest to the podcast, Mr. Mike Kundell. Mike, how's it going, man?
Good, man. Thank you for that introduction. Those are very, very kind words. And you're one of the greatest teachers that I've had. So it was a pleasure working with you. And it's an honor to be on this podcast and talking about the great school of UofT and the amazing profession that we're about to be in. So it's going to be a fun time.
You're going to crush it, man. I appreciate the kind words, and, missed having you around, but it was a good 6 weeks. It was a good 6 weeks.
It was 6 weeks. My current place, and it's just not the same,
Don't tell your CI that. Anyways, Reed, I'll pass it on to you to bring in our second guest here.
So for our next guest to the PhysioSchool Podcast, we bring to you a man representing secondary school in the 6. He's a former turned varsity blue, a motion ball master in the future of spine rehab. If you haven't heard this name before, you need to write it down, because Mr. Aaron Wexler is going to.
Wow, and it's going way better after hearing that intro. I am
perfect.
I'm
Thank goodness.
That, but I'm even more honored to be a part of this show and be able to speak about this program that I'm so passionate about and happy to be a part of.
Awesome. Listening to the audio, I need you to pop on the YouTube, because he's rocking a good bucket hat too, and everyone deserves to see that. So
couldn't resist the opportunity. Have to show off the Bucky.
Totally. Love it. Well, guys, let's hop right in. I want to get a few intros from you both, maybe a bit more in depth about, who you are, just have a good idea of who they're listening to for the next, 45 minutes to an hour here. So, Aaron, if you just go and, name, where you're from, like grad, that sort of thing. And we're all about the fun facts here. So if you have a good one, aside from that, you're, rocking a good grade to throw in.
Oh, wow. Okay. I'm not very fun, but I'll try my best. But hi, my name is Aaron. I guess we already said that. I'm from Toronto originally. I did my undergrad in kinesiology at Brock University. And a fun fact about me, I recently got a role as an extra in a new Adam Sandler movie coming out, solely based off my experience of attending bar mitzvahs. I unfortunately wasn't able to take it on because I'm still in school and I wasn't able to miss several group meetings and class, but $150 for 10 to 12 hours sounded pretty good. So I definitely recommend it if somebody gets the opportunity again.
Geez, that might be a tough fun fact to follow up for Mr. Mike here, but do your best.
No, that's going to be tough, but yeah. So like we said, my name is Mike Kundell. I'm actually a little bit older than the majority of people in physio school right now. I'm 28 years old. Originally from up north in Sudbury, Ontario, also known as the Dirty Burr. So shout out to Sudbury. I completed my undergrad at Laurentian University. I did that way back in the day, and then I worked a bit to save up to move down to Toronto. And what's funny is that when I read kind of the fun fact question, it took me a while to kind of think of one, and I actually had to text my girlfriend to ask, like, hey babe, like, what's a fun fact about me? And in that moment, I thought, damn, like I'm kind of a boring kind of guy. But one fun fact about me, I guess, that I came up with, and it's not even that fun, is that I enjoy to partake in several martial arts. That's what I like to do for a hobby. So not as good as the bar.
Right.
Don't
That's a
get
solid
this guy.
I like it.
Thank you.
The moral of the story there is just don't get in this guy's way. Don't get on his bad side.
Yeah.
Beauty. Well, Mike, I'm going to keep it with you here. We kind of want to know why you guys chose UofT PT amongst the many PT schools in Canada. And if you got into any other programs as well, that'd be great to know too.
Yeah, for sure. So I chose UofT Physio for a couple of reasons. The main reason for me was the placement opportunities that the University of Toronto offered. They have high caliber hospitals like Toronto, the Kids, Trillium, Credit Valley, and also high caliber private practice opportunities. And with that comes individuals that have so much skill and so much to offer, and to really be mentors and guide you throughout the placements. And the other reason why I chose UofT was because I like the way they laid out their curriculum, and that they offer the research opportunity, which gives you a chance to get published. And that's a milestone that some people don't get a chance to achieve, or it takes them a while to achieve. And to have that title so close to after graduating is kind of a good feeling. So those were the main reasons. I had my secondary reasons because I felt like I was always a big city guy, never fit into Sudbury, wasn't really into fishing and all those outdoor activities. But yeah, UofT was the only physiotherapy school that I applied to, and that was because my girlfriend lived in Toronto, so I wanted to move down. We'd be doing long distance for a couple of years, so it was time to get our future started. But that's not to discredit any of the other Ontario physio schools. They're all great. But yeah, I applied to UofT, got in my first try, so now here I am, almost about to graduate. Time flies.
The rest is history, man. The rest is history.
Yeah.
And what about you, Aaron? Tell us some of those reasons.
So I went to UofT for a few reasons. Firstly, I was lucky enough to be accepted to UofT, McMaster, and Western. I think UofT kind of pulled me in. I am from Toronto originally, so that was probably my main reason. I wanted to start building my professional network in the city I wanted to end up in. I kind of had the experience of building a really good network up in St. Catharines, where Brock is. But now being back in the city, there are great contacts and great references to have, but I can't actually be working for them anymore. And I kind of realized I want to be able to start working right when I finish school. And I wouldn't be able to do that as well if I went to school outside of the city I wanted to work in. I'm a very big anatomy fan. I love my musculoskeletal anatomy. And I knew that UofT had one of the largest donor body programs in North America. And it actually offers our students to have a full body dissection in our first unit of musculoskeletal anatomy. And that was really attractive to me. I spent a lot of time in the cadaver lab at Brock, and being able to actually and strip away each muscle and kind of see the layers of the human body was really attractive to me. And then, as Mike said, the amazing hospitals and the catchment area is quite amazing, and like it really gives us that opportunities to like get our hands dirty in some of the world's best hospitals. I don't know about you guys, but those commercials, those were like a huge inspiration to me. I would watch them kind of as like a motivation piece. Like even before my cap and my cast, my Kira, I would like spend like a solid 45 minutes right before just watching the sick kids videos to kind of like hype me up. You know, yeah, this is what I want to do. And one of the physios in one of the videos, his name is Ryan Ireland, actually went to UofT, and I was like, oh wow, if he can do that and then do this and make such a big impact in these kids' lives, like maybe I can too. So it kind of drove me to want to go to that school, and round up lecturing us one day, and I got to meet him, which was super, super cool.
That's amazing, man. I actually even remember you messaging me. I think it was like the night before your cap, and you were telling me how you were watching those videos. So just, you know, the fact that you're here now is like unbelievable.
Yeah.
I'll jump into this next question with you guys. So we'll stick with you, Aaron, if that's cool. What experience did you have prior to PT school, both PT related and non-PT related?
Oh yeah, so I did quite a bit during my undergrad, and by no means is this all necessary to do, but it's more so because I really liked having fun, and this is my idea of fun. So PT related experiences, I was a lead volunteer at the Power Cord program at Brock University, which is a wheelchair accessible program for individuals with spinal cord injuries, multiple sclerosis, similar to the PACE program at McMaster for all your members out there. And I ended up working their entire university experience, and that's what really got me into I guess it gave me my passion for working with people with spinal cord injuries. I was also a volunteer and coordinator for a program with individuals with developmental delay and neurodiversities. I was a student varsity trainer for the swim team at Brock for about 3 years. I was a medical first responder apprentice with St. John's Ambulance for about 2 years. I shadowed a physio in the summer going into my 4th year, which kind of let me see what it was like to work with a physio and like the day in the life of a physio. And then I also worked as a student personal support worker in a group home for adults with cognitive and neurodiversities one summer as well. And then in regards to my non-PT related experiences, I was president of 4 clubs at Baroque. And again, I like doing things because it keeps me off the streets. President of the Kin Council, which really allowed me to, I guess, get to know other students in my profession and see what others are doing with their degree. I was also the editor-in-chief of the Brock Health magazine, which was a student publication focused on topics within the healthcare field. And it was created by students for students, so it was a really interesting perspective to get. I was the president of the Faculty of Applied Health Sciences Student Association, so I got to work with students from every single faculty within every single program within the Faculty of Applied Health Sciences, which was a really good introduction to the whole interdisciplinary collaboration that is so important within our field. And then I was also the coordinator of the Faculty of Applied Health Sciences Mentorship Program, which was a mentorship program, which was faculty-wide, and then it actually sprouted into, I started 2 other faculty, or I guess mentorship programs. One was with the Niagara branch of the McMaster Medical School, aspiring Brock students wanting to go to med, and then another program was for graduate students, so like it was master's students would mentor undergrad students for them to, I guess, pursue a master's degree. And then I was a webinar facilitator. I guess I still am a webinar facilitator for Spinal Cord Injury Ontario, and I provide, I guess, once every 2 months, I provide a lecture on the importance of physical activity after spinal cord injury. And then I also had some research experience on top of that, which also was good to talk about on my applications, all of which pertain to spinal cord injury. The first one was a high-intensity interval training on secondary complications of spinal cord injury, and then the second one being looking into the perceptions of cannabis to manage neuropathic pain after spinal cord injury. Again, that was a lot. I know, probably should have done less, but that's the answer to the question.
Is that it, man? Or like, it's a pretty slim resume there.
That's it. How thick is your resume? Like, how many pages do you have? Man, that's awesome.
And what about you, Mike? Tell us a little bit about that.
Yeah, you guys got to ask me the questions first because it's. But I'll do a little summary, I guess. So the closest thing that I did that was PT related was similar to Aaron. I was the student trainer, athletic therapist. but I did it for the basketball team at Laurentian. And with that, you get to learn like all the tape jobs for different injuries and how to do sideline assessments, which is awesome. But I think the value in that experience was I used to take majority of athletes to their appointments. So I would see, doctors, chiropractors, athletic therapists, physiotherapists, and saw what they did and how they assessed and the treatments they used. And that's kind of when I fell in love with PT and started formulating my plan to get into physio school. My non-PT related experiences, they're all over the place. I volunteered at a neuropsychologist's office, and there I did research on traumatic brain injury. I was eventually able to present that to some undergraduate courses at Laurentian. I did some work with Alzheimer's Society, was on fundraising committees at hospital for events. I worked in the pharmacy for a bit, and so a wide variety of experience. And PT related experience is critical, but I think for me, these non-PT experiences put me in situations that help me build critical competencies that are required for physiotherapists, like collaboration, communication, time management, all that sort of stuff. And so I really think it's important when you're building up your resume with experience that you look for opportunities that are valued in the field of physiotherapy and that you can kind of draw upon when you're applying. I mean, not to say that, working in a physio clinic is not bad, but I would say, keep in mind what physios need to be able to do, and then you can draw from your experiences and put that in your resume, and that's kind of how you can really stand out and start, formulating your plan. But yeah, that's the sum of mine. That's all I got to offer.
No, that's amazing, man. And you guys both exemplify that 100%. Like Reed and I can both agree. Like that's what we preach to people all the time. Reed, before you get into this next question, I know you like you said earlier, you said you like the fun facts, right? We like the fun facts on here. So
Always.
as Mike was mentioning there, when he was a trainer for the basketball team for Laurentian, it was actually the same year that you and I were trainers. So when I was a trainer for the basketball team, and then you had the baseball team. So Mike and I, we talked on placement, and we actually deduced that we were sitting right down bench to bench to each other during the Western versus Laurentian game, which was a tough game for Western that day. It was a tough game for me. I was getting called water boy. I got a wooden spoon thrown at me. It was nuts, but it's crazy how 4 or 5 years later, Mike and I are on placement together.
Yeah, Laurentian was ruthless for their for the away team, But hey, you got through it. Now look at you,
Exactly.
Those experiences built you. You could put that on your resume,
Made me stronger, man. Made me stronger.
Yeah.
That's okay. They're like, this is a resilient individual that can sit courtside and get harassed by Laurentian's fan base. That's awesome. Well, thank you. Experiences. That's awesome. And, we asked that question, obviously, to one mold that maybe want to get into PT school to be like, okay, I either need to pull myself, get a little bit busier before I apply, but also just to get that advice, like you mentioned, Mike. It's not all about the PT experiences directly related to it. It's that non as well that's super important. So thank you. I was hoping to get a good overview of the program at UofT. We've got a lot of hopefully future varsity Blues to, be heading in or listening to. So, Aaron, you just finished your finishing first year. Mike, you're getting close to the end of your second year. I was thinking maybe we start with ace out the program, maybe talk about how the semesters are organized, when placements are, how many placements there are in general, and then length of program to it, however you see fit.
Yeah, for sure. So it's a 26-month program. So I began in August of 2021, and I'll be finishing in October 2023. And within those 26 months, we have, I believe, 14 units. And correct me if I'm wrong, Mike, I've only been through 6 of them. But 14, and the first year is for 6, and then you finish the rest of them in your second year. So the units I've been through already. So we start off with our Critical Foundations of PT, which is super chill. It was like the first month. It was like all of September. And it's just an introduction to the profession. And you go over the competencies and scope of practice of a PT and the things you can work in, and some very basic terminology, especially because some people haven't done first year anatomy since, I guess, their first year, and that could be different years for different people, right? So they kind of try to help people catch up to the same level. Again, just like to the very basic terminology so everyone feels comfortable. And then after that unit, we go into our second unit, which is our intro to MSK. And that, again, it's intense because it's a big change from undergrad, but that's definitely where the program starts to amp up a little bit. But it's a lot of fun. You learn so much, and it's really cool to see it all in action. I remember going to lab at 8 a.m. We would have our cadaver labs, and we'd be in our cadaver labs from like 8 to 10, and we'd be looking at a certain, area of the body, like for example, the ankle. And then at like 1 p.m. our anatomy lab or our skills lab, and we'd be looking at special tests of the ankle. So I'm like, I'm testing the ATFL that I just dissected this morning. And that was super cool for me to like kind of see it like within the same like 8 hours of just being like seeing it underneath the skin and then just trying it on a real person. So that was really cool for MSK. And then that goes into the winter, and then we come back after the Christmas break and we have our cardio rest unit. And that's super interesting. Cardio rest physio is a different ballgame, but you learn so much, and it's not too hard. It's all new, but it's not like incredibly difficult by any means. And then after cardio rest, we get into our neuro unit, and that is, I guess, notorious for being a bit more complicated to an extent, just because it's, we're learning our neuroanatomy as well as, the clinical skills and the theory and the physiology. So that's a bit more of a intensity scale. And then right after neuro, we have we go into our first clinical placement. And I really like that the program's laid out this way because we already have our MSK, cardio rest, and neuro under our belt. So we're able to go into any of those fields at that point. And that's a 6-week placement. We have 5 6-week placements throughout the program. But something I didn't mention is we have our ACE days. And ACE days, that means it stands for Active Clinical Exposure Placements. And those are basically observation placements that are structured within our first 2 semesters. So like within, it starts in October, even end of September. And you just go in, you shadow a physio. You might be able to do some hands-on stuff, but it's very low stakes. And you're not looking to take on a caseload by any means. It's just for you to get accustomed to what a life of a PT is like, and kind of learning what it's like to be in different settings. And I really like that. Those 2 ACE placements we had. So my first one was in Cleveland Clinic, shout out Saba. And then my second one was at Baycrest Hospital. So I wasn't in a hospital beforehand, but those were 2 additional experiences on top of our 5 internships, which allowed us to, see different facilities and different healthcare teams, and then also be able to network and make connections with those teams as well. So I now am connected with more people than I would have been if I didn't have those exposures. And it was really great, and just kind of helps build your confidence and allows you to apply what you've learned in class. And then after your first clinical placement, it brings you to about, end of July or beginning of July. And then you have our 6-week critical thinking in PT, which is what I'm currently doing. And it's basically, we tie in everything we learned from MSK, cardio rest, and neuro into one unit. And then we also take on burn care, lower limb loss, and wound care. But now we're thinking about more in-depth patients and more complex cases. And hypothetically, somebody who comes in, they have HIV, COPD, osteonecrosis, and then they also had a knee replacement. How do you create a physio plan for them? And it kind of gets you thinking about everything, and you have to do some research. There's a lot of problem-based learning within there as well. And it's very cool. But yeah, so that was our first 6 units. I know right now we have our research coming up, but I haven't experienced that, so maybe I can take on from unit 7 and onwards.
Yeah, for sure. And good job summing that first year. It's a lot, but it's a very rewarding experience. And like I said earlier, that's why I like the layout of UofT, because it goes before your first placement, you've got MSK, you've got neuro, and you got cardio rest. Now, your first placement might be in MSK, which you might be a little rusty in, but you got the foundation. So all you need to do is just review your notes and you're good to go. But yeah, when we come back from our break, we go into Unit 7, which is our scholarly practice one. So what you do is you pick, there's a certain amount of research topics available for you, and you pick, and it's kind of like a random draw, and you get assigned to a group. And so when you come back in September, this is when you guys get together, you meet with your advisors, you discuss your project, and then you have the 3 weeks, which doesn't seem like a long time, but you can do it. You write a manuscript protocol for your research study. And so those 3 weeks are about. And then after that, you move on to your clinical internship. So you have 6 weeks in one, and then right after the other, you have another 6 weeks. So you have 2 back-to-back clinical internships. And as you move on in your clinical internships, like your first, your second, your third, you get to take more and more caseload from your clinical instructor, CI. Obviously, they make sure that you're comfortable and they're not going to just leave you hang out to dry, but it's really, really rewarding experience to have that control. You know, it feels like you're a real physio. It feels like you're already out in the field. So it's a very, very rewarding experience to have that. And then after those clinical internships, you come back and it's Unit 10, which lasts for 12 weeks, and it's our advanced MSK unit. And so in that unit, you take the foundations that you learned through Unit 1 and Unit 2, you know, your basic MSK, and you apply them. You learn mobilizations of every body part. You learn TMJ, which is amazing. That's the unit that I kind of fell in love with. And so you do that, and throughout that unit as well, you work on your research unit. So this is when you do your data analysis and your data collection. So it's a heavy unit, but and it goes by really quick, but you learn a lot, and you learn after advanced MSK, you're pretty much, you know, good to go for private practice. You know, you have all the foundations. It's just now applying it in real life. So advanced MSK Unit 10 was probably my favorite unit in all of the curriculum. And then we have like a mini break, and then we go out for our 4th clinical internship, which is 6 weeks. And then when we get back from that, we have selected topics in PT, which is kind of new, but they provide a list of topics that you can choose from, and it's 1 week in one topic and then 1 week in the next topic. So this year they provided entrepreneurship, where you can learn about running a business, starting up your own clinic, and they bring people in from the community to talk to you. It's really rewarding. That's the one I took. They offer pelvic health. They offer vestibular rehab. They offer sports therapy. So you get to really, this is when you kind of say, okay, like maybe I want to dive into more neuro, or I want to dive into more MSK and learn stuff about sports, or maybe I want to open up my clinic. So I want to take that course and learn a little bit more about that. So aside from the advanced MSK, that was my second favorite unit, because then you really try to find yourself and explore what you kind of might want to do. And then after that is our 6 week, and this is what's our research unit. This is when you develop, you have all your data, you have it all analyzed. Now you write the research paper. You present your research. This year we had to do it virtually. I'm not sure if Aaron, hopefully you'll be able to do it in person. Virtually was okay, but just not the same as in person, you know, like it's just, I don't know. I never really liked virtual school. It's better in person. There's always that awkward time in virtual, you know, like people talk over each other and stuff. I don't know. It's just better in person. But so hopefully you're able to do it in person. But it was good. You present your research, then you stay in contact with your advisors, and then you write your research paper towards the journal that you want to publish. So my group, we wrote it towards Physiotherapy Canada. So now we're kind of in the process of getting that published, which is really, really exciting. And so hopefully we find out about that. And after that, we go into our final clinical internship, which I am in now. And then you're done the program, you know, which is kind of like anticlimactic, because like after you're done your final internship, you just end, there's no like celebration, like the last day is the last day. And it's like, oh, 2 years have kind of gone by, but that's where you make the friends and you have a celebration with them. But yeah, I think that's the overview. I don't know if I missed anything or if you guys have any more questions, but that's the general overview of our 2-year program.
That was awesome. Man, you guys are on the ball. Like, I don't know if you guys like research this, but every time we ask this question, it's just like bang, 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 every single component of the program. And I'm like, geez, that's impressive. And it's there's a lot of unique things in UofT's program that we haven't really heard before, which like you were mentioning, Mike, like being able to specialize at the end and choose pelvic health, vestibular, dive deeper into neuro, entrepreneurship. Like that's a cool feature to UofT's program.
Yep. And it's awesome to have people in the community, like amazing physios coming in and giving you their advice. And it really like you soak it all in and it's so rewarding. And it was just an amazing experience. And Aaron, you're going to love that unit, man. It's awesome.
Yeah. Like another thing I would just wanted to stress too is just, I think those ACE sessions you guys do, those active clinical exposures is so key. Like I actually would have loved to have that. I don't know how you guys felt about them, but like even as a clinical instructor, like when you were on place with me, Mike, like those days where we had like 2 other students come in and I had like 3 students all at once. Like the one thing I liked about it was those students can now come in and like Aaron, you were saying, like very low stakes. You're not asked to really do anything, but they got to see Mike, who was like a second-year student, and they got to see kind of the responsibilities that he was shouldering at that point. And I think it's a good way to just kind of put in your head, like, look, I'm going to be there at one point, right? Because I think especially when you're a first-year physio student, you're kind of in this phase where you're like, am I ever going to be able to like, do it all on my own and carry my own caseload? Like, what does that even look like? So I think even, say there wasn't another student there, I think it's great to just have that exposure before you're actually going to go do the real thing. But that was my take on it.
Yeah, no, sorry.
Go ahead.
I think also for those students that was there when I was there, I know when I was about to start my placement, I was nervous. Like I was so nervous, but I think, seeing that second-year student, and the support that I had at that placement and seeing that it can be done, hopefully, it calmed their nerves down a little bit so they can, because we're all capable, like, we're all capable of doing. We got into physio school. We're all capable. It's just sometimes it is nerve-wracking, your first placement or even your second placement. But like you said, the ACE sessions are huge just to see and to get exposure to that and be like, yeah, I can do this. It's not going to be hard.
Yeah, that's a mic drop right there for sure. All right, moving on to the next one here, guys. We got to talk about GPA. Like you can't talk about physio school without talking about GPA in Canada. So, UofT typically has one of the highest sub GPA cutoffs. We see that year after year. And it's usually a barrier for a lot of applicants and even a lot of like good applicants. People would make good physios in the future. So given that fact, do you guys have any tips to ensure that, if you're someone who's applying to PT school in the next year or two, you're going to meet that cutoff? Maybe we can start with you, Aaron, and then we'll go off to Mike.
Yeah, well, I think it's always a good idea to kind of look in advance and see what that GPA cutoff was at one point. But it's also important to keep in mind that it can change dramatically from year to year. Like I know that between the year I applied versus the year before me, it went up about from 3.78 to 3.83, was it? Something like that. So it's like it's varies. But again, just seeing where you're at and in that ballpark is probably the first step to do so, and kind of having like that goal in mind. GPA is such a subjective thing, and it varies from school to school and from person to person about what's possible, right? Because we don't want to burn ourselves out trying to achieve that GPA, because it is getting unrealistic. And like what you said is like the people who are who aren't accepted are very, very similar to people who are accepted. And then there's just this little number in between. But I guess my biggest advice is just look and do as much research as you can on what you need to get in, and then use that as a goal. And the best thing I can say is just aim for a goal and try to meet that goal. Also, I believe, it's a ORPAS, that's what it's called, the application I guess, survey or system. They have the SAM, the Secure Applicant Messaging Program, where you can, I guess, ask questions about your applications. If you have a course and you're not sure if it's a practical course or an internship or whatever that wouldn't be traditionally counted to your sub GPA, I recommend reaching out to both SAM as well as much more in courses that they didn't believe were courses, and then they ended up being internships and count towards their sub GPA. And that was like 4.0, and they weren't able to use it. So I guess looking at the courses that you're counting when you are calculating your own sub GPA are indeed counted to their sub GPA as well, just so you kind of have the idea of where you're at in comparison to where you might be at.
No, I love that. What about you, Mike? What are you thinking?
Yeah, Aaron, that was great advice, man. Great advice. It's a tough one. It's a tough question to answer, but I think my advice, like Aaron said, as early as you can in university, have a kind of general idea of what you might want to do, and with that, go onto these admission sites. Like they list at UofT PT Physio the admission requirements. They list it. So go into the website, look at the requirements so that you can work towards achieving them. For UofT, the sub GPA is like the last 20 half courses or 10 full-time courses or something like that. I'm not sure. It's on the website though. So what I did was I got the prerequisites out of the way, because you need certain prerequisites, which are also listed on the website. So I got those out of the way, and then my last 2 years, I took courses that I knew I would do relatively well in. If that's not the case, then find support around you. Create study groups with your friends to go over the material together. If you have courses that are more challenging for you in the last 2 years, put aside extra time so that you can work on that and study for that. I knew going into UofT, it was going to be hard, and it's a challenge to get into UofT, but that's what makes it so enticing. And so some of the courses I knew I wasn't going to do well in, I spent some extra time on that material, countless weekends at the library till the wee hours of the morning, but it all pays off. Once you get in, it's a rewarding experience. And luckily when you're in, physio school, the grades aren't as heavily important. But sometimes, and I know burnout is a thing, so you got to be careful, but sometimes if you have that goal in mind, you gotta work towards it. And then when you eventually get into PT school, you don't have to grind as hard. It's still a grind, but it's not all for nothing. You're working towards your goal, so sometimes you gotta put in the work. But this is a hard question to answer, because it is very, very competitive, and sometimes people feel a little bit disappointed when they don't get in, when they have similar results to other applicants. But don't let that deter you. Keep on trying. If it's your dream, if it's your goal, keep grinding. Don't give up.
I love that. We need a clip that we can post on our Instagram or something, Mike. I love it. But too, on like a topic that really isn't talked about all that much. Like everyone's like shy to talk about GPA, in my opinion. Like no one wants to give away their tips or tricks when they're trying to beat out the person undergrad lecture sort of thing. So thank you both for sharing that. I like it. And in that strategy approach is definitely something I can relate to, of which courses are going to be submitted to, which ones aren't. And then Mike, that grinded attitude is needed. So that's I'll lob you guys a bit of an easier question here. There's been a few heavy hitters here for the last few. And Mike, if you could start for me, we'd like to get an idea of, where your guys' reference letters came from. So like name drop people specifically, but at UofT, you require a professional reference letter and then one academic one. This is something as well that not a lot of people talk about through the process of trying to get an academic one. and it was just like I was nervous, didn't know how to ask. So if you could run through maybe, who those people were for you or to you ask them, that would be awesome.
Yeah, of course, man. So for my academic reference, I used one of my professors who it was fortunate for me. I took a couple of courses with, and that allowed me to we built a good relationship over the time that I had, and they knew what my goals were. So when it came time to apply to physio, it was just a matter of asking. So I didn't feel too nervous because I built that relationship. And if you know you're going to have multiple courses with a professor, like usually it's listed in what they teach, try to build that relationship. Laurentian, it was a little bit easier because, the Sudbury has a population of like 10 people. So like, it's easy to get, it's easy to build those relationships because you're not in a class of 500 students, but do what you can. You're going to need an academic reference. So try to build those relationships as early. So when it comes time to it, it's not an awkward conversation. They know what you want to do. So it's easy as, I'm applying. Would you be able to provide a reference? So that's my advice for that. I don't know if it's the greatest, but for my professional reference, I asked the head athletic therapist at Laurentian, who oversaw all the student athletic therapists. And again, because I did that for so many years, we had a good relationship and they knew my goals as well. And so when it came time to apply, they were more than welcome to provide a reference. Again, bringing it back to the point I made earlier, I think it's important to choose, when you're thinking of a professional reference, someone that can speak on your behalf of the qualities that are important for physiotherapists to have, because they need to be able to talk about that, and that's important for entrance, I believe. So those are the two that I picked. I built a strong relationship with them over the years, and so it was easy when it came time to it. So, yeah.
Beauty. And go ahead.
Sorry, yeah. So I guess building on Mike's point of, I guess, having it be a little bit easier to, I guess, stand out per se in a smaller school compared to large, really huge schools. I definitely had that same experience at Brock, being able to just kind of, make my network and kind of stand out in that way. So as I mentioned earlier, I was quite involved in the student body, and I did a lot for the faculty, and I created pretty good ties and a nice relationship with the dean of our faculty. So he knew what my goals were, and he knew how badly I wanted it. And I basically had the conversation with him like in April, like before the year I applied. And he said that he'd be willing to do so. And then he got to see me work for a bit more and throughout the summer. And we again started to build that rapport even more. So then by the time I asked if he would be willing to do so in October, he was more than happy to. So I had him. It took me some time just to kind of figure out who I wanted to do my professional, who I wanted to do my academic, because I was very lucky to have such great contacts at that time. But I decided to have, because I remember reading the description of the academic was to help describe my academic abilities as well as this, like, in comparison to other students. I remember that was part of it. So I said, okay, well, he is the dean. He gets to get all of my marks. So I'm going to have him write my academic one. So I had the dean of my faculty write the academic reference, and I guess just speak to all of my marks at the time. And then the director of the PowerPoint program I mentioned earlier was also my research supervisor, or I guess I was a research assistant at the time, but it was his lab I was assisting in. So I had him write my professional reference on my millimeter work in the team, as well as in with the population, as mentioned before. And I kind of did speak with both of them like pretty far in advance about what I'm doing and maybe the message I'd like them to, I guess, convey. And they're both, incredible individuals, and I'm sure they wrote a great reference. But that was really it. I started early, and that's what allowed me to get those references of my choice, as well as like I kind of thought of it way in advance, so I could work my way up to asking and building that rapport with them. So by the time I did ask, it wasn't like, oh, are they going to say yes or no? Or it's just more like, oh, when are they going to give it to me? Because yeah, like they kind of offered it before I had to ask, which was really great. So I would recommend, if you are thinking of somebody who'd love to be a reference, I definitely recommend providing them the information that you're applying for a school and you will need a reference, and then just work hard for them and try to show them what you can do. And then like our professors and our faculty are happy to support you and support your professional development. So there's a good bit to offer before you even ask. So I definitely recommend doing that.
That's great advice from both of you guys. Like I think the common and biggest theme between both of you is it's starting early for this stuff. Like that, it's not a science, right? Because like you kind of both alluded to it. Like it is a little bit awkward if you're like, in that December of your fourth year, it's like 2 days before the application deadline, and you're asking for a reference letter from like someone that you kind of know. Like it's not the greatest situation. A lot of people, like, don't get me wrong, people do get away with it for sure, and like power to them. But if you're trying to make physio school applications as less stressful or as least stressful as possible for you guys, like that's definitely the best way to go. And you guys are both living proof of it. Both got into UofT physio, right? Multiple schools, so it's definitely a learning lesson for anybody listening. Reed, I'm actually going to lob this next question to you. This is kind of your area to talk about, so you can go into this one for sure.
Absolutely. So when applying to U of T, obviously most universities in Canada for video programs, there's an interview component. For U of T, you're the only app, computer administered profile, what it stands for. I don't want you to get into anything too, obviously that's pretty confidential information and you're really not supposed to share about specifics or stuff like that. But could you just give us, your overall experience with the CAP? Like, did you think you did well after it? What was your experience? Would you, guidance or advice to people? And maybe Aaron, if you could start, that would be awesome.
Yeah, absolutely. So I think when I got that CAP invite was probably one of the best days within that year of me applying to physio school, because it made me feel like, wow, this is real. I can actually do this. So with that feeling came that anxiety of, oh wait, I actually have to do really well on this for it to become a reality. So it's definitely intimidating. It's definitely an intimidating assessment because you know that you've already done so much. You want to make sure that you can finish strong after getting that sub GPA cut off and getting the good references and the Casper quota. And I guess my biggest advice to anybody who might be writing the CAP one day is to just practice. Think about the messages you want to convey, and think about the experiences you'd like to share, and then just figure out ways you'd like to work around using them. The advice I was given, I also worked with Anthony and Reed prep, and this is when I signed up for physio school once I got that CAP invite. But what I was told and what I think worked for me is tell them exactly what they want to hear. So if they're asking for a question on a time that you displayed a skill, for example, just do that. Don't get too off topic, or you won't meet the criteria to get the associated marks for that question. Because at the end of the day, it is a test. It does have a rubric to it, and it's looking at how you answered the question. And then also, it's just think about ways to, I guess, answer give them the answers that they're looking for, and tell them the skills that you have and the ways that you'd be the way you could benefit their program. So because that's again, at the end of the day, it's a school. They want their next cohort of students to be successful, and they want them to work their hardest. So being able to communicate that message and show them that you really want to be not only a physiotherapist, but you want to be a physiotherapist in the city, if you can, in Toronto, working with different populations, open to new challenges. You're a lifelong learner, and you want to do what you can to be the best healthcare professional you can possibly be. That's what's really going to help you stand out amongst the other 300 something students that will also get that invite.
Yeah, that's awesome. Unreal. Yeah, go ahead, Mike. Sorry, I cut you off there.
No, that's my fault. Sometimes I jump the gun, so I apologize. Virtual environment, everyone always talks over each other. But yeah, great explanation by Aaron. I don't even know why I'm here sometimes, But the CAP, it was okay. Every exam is stressful, and I think it's more stressful knowing that, this is kind of like the last step before you get into PT school, like Aaron was saying. And I'm a person that doesn't really do well under a time pressure. So I knew going in that my strategy going into the exam would be focus on the harder questions, that I thought were harder first, finish those, get them out of the way, and then go back to the easier questions at the end. When I wrote it, I think I finished with 2 minutes left, but that's because I quadruple check everything. And even after I finished that, I wasn't confident that I did well, because it's an exam that tests problem solving skills and your knowledge and experience, and it sort of lists on the website, so you can kind of get a brief description of what they're going to ask. So it's kind of hard to judge how well you did, but I think for people prepping for the exam, and what I did was, when you're writing it, think of your experiences and what you can draw from your background when you're answering the question. Think of times when you had to solve a problem. Think of times when you had to critically think. Use your experiences to answer the questions the best you can, because I think that's what they want. They want to see that you're able to problem solve and do all those things. So try to draw on your experiences as best as you can when answering those questions would be my number one advice. Yeah.
Beauty. No, I love it. You guys are giving out like too many gems for free here for the listeners, but it's a good thing. It's a good thing. It's going to be a layup for them when they do it this upcoming application season. I'm going to go into another, you can call it a pseudo interview, almost the CAP. It's the CAP with 3 letters added onto it. It's the Casper. You guys have any general tips for doing the Casper? And maybe again we could go same order, Aaron, and then Mike here.
Yeah, I would say my prep. Okay, it was definitely different, but it was similar to an extent. Like I did, like, at first the first thing I was told when I told colleagues of mine that I'm preparing for the Casper is that it's something you can't study for. I want to say that's a huge lie. You can definitely prepare for the Casper. Obviously, you can't study for it. Like, there's nothing you can memorize per se. Like, it's questions about yourself. But writing an exam, or not an exam, but like something Casper is not something that you can just pick up and run with. It's you have 5 minutes for a question, and you have to type very quickly. You have to get your thoughts down pretty quickly as well. And it has to make sense. Like, they have to be able to understand what you're trying to communicate within that time. And you don't have time to go back and check. It's like after that 5 minutes, you don't see that question again. So that in itself is something that you should be practicing to begin with. I would also definitely recommend the basics of looking at both sides of the situation, seeing if there's a compromise that you can be making. Like, those were very generic Casper tips, and that's what I did. Like, that's what helped me get here. So it definitely works. Using your personal experiences is also a really good tip. It's just like, I've in my experience as like the trainer for the men's volleyball team, or as a cashier at Food Basics, I had a similar situation, and this is what I did to handle it. So I think that Max in this situation can do this, like, kind of showing that you've been there and you kind of understand and you've learned from your past really does go a long way. I guess a little, not a metaphor, but a little rhyme I have is that facts tell, but stories sell. Like, if you're looking to really sell a point, the best way you're going to do it is from your lived experience, saying, this is what worked for me. Let's see if it can work for this person here. Because that's, again, not only is it going to help, push your point forward and across to the marker, but it's also going to help you stand out from the crowd who's just saying, oh yeah, split the prize with Joe. Because that is, the basic, and they're looking for the out of the box answers, which work. I also strongly recommend, and this isn't something I did because applying to physio school is, nerve-wracking, and you don't really want to expose yourself to that because it's scary. But what I want to say is you should definitely collaborate with your colleagues and your peers and your friends and anybody else who'd be able to help you. So if someone else is writing the Casper test, you guys are going to be way better if you work together and you compare answers and you practice together and you kind of help each other learn than you would if you were just by yourself and trying to make yourself do better on your own. Because, again, they might think of points that you couldn't even think of, you didn't even realize were there, and you might know something that they might know, or they could teach you something new. So I definitely recommend learning from other people and in other groups if you can. I also recommend getting as much feedback on your answers as you can. Just like, write up your answer, give yourself that 5-minute time slot, and then have somebody kind of look it over and give them your opinion, have them get their opinions on it, because that's where you really do your learning, is like, seeing where you could improve and what you kind of missed and what could be better. Because that's what I did. Again, like I had a team. I had the career resources at Brock. They had Casper prep, so I was like, okay, this is excellent. And then I found friends, like one of my friends, shout out Lisa. She was a nursing student, and that was something they had to do to get into their program, was the Casper. So we did Casper prep together, and she had such great advice that I wouldn't have even thought of. So again, just opening up to other people and trying to get their perspectives will really go a long way.
Man, Aaron, if I was writing the Casper right now, or if I was going to be writing the Casper in the next, month here, or sorry, few months here, I would have loved to hear all that. Like that was very intricate, great advice for anyone doing that. So appreciate that for sure. I'm sure you can maybe add on a few other pearls here, Mike.
Yeah, I don't have too much to say other than what Aaron said, but Aaron's advice was great. I second all of that. But what I did in advance, in addition to that, was I purchased a prep course that came with a book, and it came with practice exams. You could do 2 practice exams that were timed, and then you would submit it, and people would give you feedback. And what I also did was I knew people. I was doing research with people, and people who were experienced in those types of situations I'd also give my answers to, and they would give me feedback. So that's what I did, and I think this helped me a lot. And actually, I would say it's a very good way to prep for these kind of exams, because I think Aaron said it's not really, you can't study for it. So these types of exams, the more practice questions you do, the more you get used to how you should write and what you should write about, because like Aaron said, it's a time-sensitive exam and you only have so much time. It seems like 30 seconds before you move on to the next question. So you need to be quick and concise and on your feet. So I would say, try to put yourself in mock exam situations and time your answers so that you get used to the feeling. So when it comes down to, game day, it's not the first time that you're writing ethic-based questions, the first time. So I think everything that Aaron said, and try to do as many practice exams as you can and put yourself in the situation would be my advice as well.
Guys, that's awesome. Thank you. And to keep on the theme of just provide tips, like anything for applying to UofT in particular that you think that would help people who, they're dreaming into UofT physio, anything you guys can think of, and maybe Mike, then we'll bounce back to Aaron there.
Sure. Yeah, I've come up with some general tips. The first one I would say, first research what the admission requirements are and get those down. Crush out your prereqs and the courses they use for the sub GPA. One thing I'm big on is have good professional experience. I wouldn't say that you need to volunteer or work at 1,000 places, but think about what qualities a physiotherapist would need and put yourself in situations that prove you have those qualities, and that will help you not only in the long run, but also writing tests and applying to physiotherapy. And the last one was, because it works so well for me, spend a little money to get prep courses or practice exams. For me, this helped me big time, and I did it for my national exam too. I'm a big believer in the more you practice in the setting you're going to be in and the type of questions you may be asked, the better you'll do. So you can't be good at every aspect and accept it. You can't be 100% at everything. So you got to accept help where you might need it. And I know we're all students and the old budget is kind of tight, but think of the long haul and where this money is going. I know we're all okay with dropping, $10, $12 on Starbucks. So, put some money, treat yourself towards physio, and, it'll all pay off in the end. So I think those are my big 3 that I would say are the general tips for people trying to apply, which worked for me.
Thank you. That's awesome. And yeah, I agree with the Starbucks. Pocket that money, Aaron, how about yourself?
Yeah, well, Mike gave us some great tips, and I definitely second all that, especially the one of looking to the prereqs early on. I personally didn't know that you needed psychology to become a physiotherapist. It makes some sense, but I guess it's just that insight. And I'm able to apply to a few schools because of it. So definitely look into this early as you can, because you don't want to be like me and miss out on opportunities that you could have had. But so I definitely think what my biggest advice to you is to start learning how to speak about your experiences as early as you can. Like I started thinking about it, I guess this summer. Like if I was applying this year, like this time, I guess we're in August now. So I would start thinking about it in August if you're applying in that year at least, just so you kind of think about what are your strengths, what are your weaknesses, what can you improve upon, what would you like more to speak about than others, because this is what's going to really help you stand out on your applications and in your interviews. Because someone can have some amazing experiences and they could have worked with numerous populations in different settings, but at the end of the day, if you can't talk about it, if you can't explain what you learned from that, it's really worth anything. Like it's not going to get you any further than it would if you worked, a very, very minimal, like a helpful job, like where you didn't learn variables because you can't speak about both of them equally. And like the person, like if you're able to speak about it, regardless of what it is, like if somebody's like working at, at Taco Bell, if they're able to speak about the experiences they had and the skills that they have, and the skills that they've developed from their time there, that will go a lot further than the person who was an athletic trainer for 4 years but can't actually explain what they did. So yeah, that's my number one tip for you all. And then what I did personally to kind of get myself prepped for this is in the summer, I went through each website of the schools that I'm for, and I looked for the skills that they kind of harped on the most. So like professionalism or collaboration. And a lot of them did coincide with the competencies of physiotherapy, but then they kind of had different words to them, like teamwork, like it's very similar to collaboration. But what I would do is I made a list for each school, and then I compared it with my experiences and they did there. And then from those skills that were important for each university, I then came up with, I guess, antidotes that I could talk about and the way that I would explain what I did to develop that skill in each experience. And I had a different list for each school. So like, for example, collaboration was important. So I had a story of when I collaborated as part of a healthcare team or as part of as part of the sports medicine program. And that was for one school. And like another school was more interested in leadership. So I talked about my leadership skills there. And that really allowed me to cater what I was really doing to their work. A lot of them overlap. So that's not don't let that stress you out, but just looking into seeing what they want and what they want their students to be able to possess, like the skills that they want for their students will really help you out. And then lastly, the first three I myself answer. And again, there's a lot of overlap and redundancy, but I asked myself, why do I want to be a physio? Why should I be a physio? And what will I do to improve the field of physiotherapy? And those were kind of what got me started thinking about, is this the career that's right for me? Is this what's going to help me be the best version of me I can be? And why do I deserve to be here? Because again, it is a competitive program. Why do I deserve to be here over somebody else? And that's the mindset I was in. I was just really trying to be my best self, and I realized that physio was a way to do that. And the only way I was going to get to that point is by starting early. So start early, see what you can do, talk about yourself and why physio is the best for you.
Absolutely nailed it. And this is why you guys got in, right? Close the book, done, right? Amazing. No, seriously though, you guys clearly showed a ton of preparation, and Aaron, I know you already highlighted it about being able to speak about your experiences, but I'm going to put another underline under it that's so key, right? Because there's a lot of people, like you mentioned, who do have a ton of experiences, right? But it kind of looks like they're almost jumping through hoops just to have that on the resume, but they're not 100% sure why they're doing it. And those other experiences that you think aren't going to come out, I know Mike, you alluded to this earlier, they all shape you into becoming a physiotherapist one day. Shout out Taco Bell, 100%. Shout out the grocery store jobs. All of those are key in your development. That's great, guys. Coming down to the last few questions here, we want to hear how it's gone so far, right? You know, Mike, you're like pretty much almost done the program. Aaron, you got another year ahead of you. We want to hear what's the experience been like so far. So maybe because Aaron, you've done less than Mike so far, and Mike's he's almost done. Maybe we'll start with you, and then Aaron. Sorry, Mike, you can give us the full realm of the program.
Yeah, well, I've really loved my time in this program so far. Like I like many other students wanted to be a physio since I was like in grade. I actually, for you Ontario friends out there, I took a careers and civics class because you kind of have to in Ontario schools. And in this careers class, I took a random career generator in grade 10, and I got physiotherapist. So I've been like kind of, I guess, dialed on becoming a physio since then. So being here and actually living the dream is pretty surreal. So I've really loved it, and I've been so grateful. And I remember just like how badly I wanted it, and like I kind of use that as my anchor. So I do feel like, oh wow, this is really hard. Am I going to be able to do it? I just feel like how badly I wanted it, and it just always pushes me through. So that's been a huge help in regards to like keeping up the workload, because it is a lot of work. There is a lot of work, but it is pretty low stakes. Like we haven't had, like I used to have like 45% exams at the end of my semester, which were like super stressful. And I was like, wow, how could they do that to me? We don't have that in this program. It's more so, you know, the very small 10%, 5%. There might be a 20% here and there, depending on the unit and the instructors, but it's not too I guess, difficult in that way. We also have a very cool curriculum. It's called the SPEC curriculum. It stands for Social, Political, Ethical, and Cultural, I guess, a curriculum. And we basically learn about issues in health and healthcare with a critical theoretical lens. And we understand the role physiotherapy plays, driven by the principles of anti-oppression, and mitigating inequality. And this is a really important thing that we have, like a really important curriculum. And it's kind of opened my eyes to see like how important it is for physios to really advocate and really stand up for what's right in the healthcare system. But yeah, so the academic work has been pretty good. It's tough, but it's good. I've had my first placement, and my placement was really great. I was at Northwark General Hospital in the respiratory, neurology, and stroke units. I had the opportunity to, my CI was incredible. Again, shout out Scarlett. And she covered 3 units by herself. So there were times where she would have to, you know, attend to the neuro and the stroke units, and then she'd just kind of leave me in respiratory to do my thing, which let me take on quite a bit of responsibility. I ended up taking on most of that caseload, aside from like the really complex cases. I went to unit rounds independently, and I was able to contribute and provide insight to on the discharge planning and just status and like ways to continue our treatment and interventions. We have a research unit coming up. I'm sure Mike can talk about that more, but I'm on a project which I'm really excited about. It's focusing on the facilitators and barriers to sport participation in adults age 50 plus with a spinal cord injury. And again, I'm very interested in this field, and being able to do that as like a research project that is like a solid component of my curriculum and my program at UofT is really exciting. I'm very happy about it. And then it's great being at UofT because it's such a big program. And at first, and the reason why I purposely didn't go to my undergrad is because it was so big and it's intimidating, and you can't really make a name for yourself because you're more so a number. But in this program, you're not a number at all. You are you. And it's really easy to make friends because you're all in the same thing together. And they did a very good job because we have our learning pods, which are like the places, the group that you'd be learning with, and that's like who you do your critical skills labs with. And the way that they made the first learning pods was based off of a geographic location. So the students who were living downtown together were working together, and they got to get to know each other pretty well, and they were living nearby, so it worked out for them. And then the students like myself who were commuting from North York or East York or outside of the central city of Toronto, we were able to get to know each other pretty well. And we were all in the same boat, we were all commuting, and we were all able to make friends together. And at the end of the day, like you end up becoming friends with most people in the program, and because you see them every day and everywhere you are as well. So It's really easy to make friends. It's kind of like high school, but we're all adults, and it's a lot easier to be yourself. And the best part about it is that you're all going through the same thing, and you always have a topic of conversation. So it's great. I really love the program, and it's been wonderful to me, and I hope to continue it going forward. I guess so. I guess I'm in it now. Yeah. Thanks, guys.
That's amazing to hear, Aaron. And honestly, like for us, like myself, Reed, even Cash, we can group him into that. Like, we saw you before you were in physio school, and we talked to you a ton, even like a year before you applied, right? And we knew how much you wanted it, right? We talked to a lot of people all the time about getting into physio school, and like man, this guy is really about that physio life. Like, he wants to get in probably more than anyone that we know right now, even in the past, right? And to see where you're at now, and you're super involved, and you're absolutely loving it, like it's amazing for us to see it. So kudos to you, man. You worked hard and you got there. Mike, floor's yours now. Tell us how the 2 years has been, man.
My experience has been awesome. I think the biggest adjustments, and it's a good adjustment, is that PT school isn't like undergrad. It's not cutthroat and not trying to achieve above 90% in every class or course. Obviously, you still want to get good marks, but everyone in the program is here to help you succeed. Profs, they go above and beyond to make sure that you understand the material, and are very accommodating, especially for me. Unit 10 wasn't the strongest for me, but I reached out for help, and they were always there, and they're always accommodating. So it you're not alone in the program. You always have someone there for you, and it makes you feel like you're part of a family. And you get close with a lot of people because there's only around 110 people. I think our class is 110 people. I'm not sure about you, Aaron, but I think it's similar, right? It's like 110, kind of. Yeah. Okay. With my year,
Anywhere at 100.
Yeah. So around the 100 mark. But yeah, my year of COVID it took a toll on being able to hang out with different people at school, because we would come in for labs, and then we'd do our thing, and we'd have to go home, and we couldn't stay at the university. And then at that time, like, everything was closed. So that was a tough time, but it started to ease up, and by the end, everyone knows everyone. You're all one big family, so it's really awesome. I came out with friends that I will confidently say they'll be my friends for life. Not like your undergrad class school friends that once like the class is done, so is your friendship kind of thing. You only like hang out with them when that class is going on. But there's a lot of group work at UofT as well, and everyone is willing to like grind and pull their weight. You don't have any like slackers anymore. And every group that I've been in, we got along and we crushed out our project. Big shout out to my research group, because we got through that. My research, it was we had a few quantitative research projects, which was good because the majority are qualitative. So we had quantitative. We were looking at NMES. So we virtually, which was interesting. So I'm not going to spoil our research. When it's published, you can, go read the research paper. But it was cool. Like, we did all of our data analysis, and every single one of us, and we learned like SPSS, which I've never used before, but you learn a lot through research, and it really makes you, it's a grind, I'm not going to lie, but like I said, everyone's willing to pull their weight. So you all do it, you all work through it, and you really learn a lot about the research process, because Aaron, in the first kind of unit, when you get back, you have all these classes about how to conduct research, how to conduct surveys. So you really have a foundation. You're not just sent out there and being like, okay, do your research. They really give you a foundation, and again, they're always there to help. And so you get a good foundation, and then you build on that. You work through your data analysis, data collection, and then you write a research paper. Like, it's probably one of my favorite units in UofT, and probably one of the big reasons why I actually chose UofT, like I said earlier. But yeah, shout out to that research group. So it's a really great environment. Placements have been huge. And like I said before, that was one of the main reasons why I chose UofT. I got to work with many talented physiotherapists who have taught me so much and improved my skills tenfold. And you get to interact with other healthcare professionals. At my last placement, I helped a doctor pull out a chest tube from a patient, which was crazy. And just like the downtown core is amazing. Like you go out, you walk around, you have these top tier hospitals like on the same street as university, and it's really inspiring. And it sometimes after class I would just walk past them, and it's just a real big like motivator, right? You got Toronto General, like, which is one of the top hospitals, and it's just like a good, keeps you on track. Like, I'm here, this is what I'm working for. And, it's all coming together now. It's a little bit nerve-wracking because I'm at the end, and, it's a little bit up in the air, but I'm glad I chose UofT, and curriculum is great. So experiences have been nothing but fantastic. I don't really have anything bad to say about UofT.
Man, that's awesome. You're making me wish I went to UofT a little bit. Not going to lie. It sounds like an unreal program. I wanted to wrap things up with one last question for you guys, and you've done a job summarizing the program, talking about the school experience within the program, your placements. It's been amazing. But the other side of your physio school experience is being out of class and being in the city that you school within. And obviously Toronto's got so many things to offer, but I was hoping to, what was your experience like? And it's going to be kind of cool to hear from both of you guys, since Aaron, you kind of grew up in Toronto, and Mike, you grew up very far, super far from Toronto, but Sudbury versus Toronto is just a little different, right? 10 versus population of what? 3 million, probably way more than that in Toronto. But yeah, I don't know, Aaron, do you experience first, and then Mike, you can dive in, wrap things.
Yeah, absolutely. So you're right. I did grow up here, and I had this at my fingertips for most of my life. So, when you're young and you're in high school, you don't really get that same experience as when you're, out and you're an adult and you don't need, parent consent to do anything you want to do, type of thing. So I am definitely starting to experience that a bit more here and now, being, I guess, 22. But what I find is really interesting. So I used to be the president of the Kinesiology Students Association at Brock, and I would plan events, and we would do things, and it was fun. Like, it was good, and we had student bars that we would have events at, or maybe we would have like a gala on campus or whatever it was, and it was good. But now I'm president of the PT Students Association, and we're planning the O month for our incoming first year students. And the options are limitless. Like, it's like, oh, do we want to go to a Jays game? Do we want to go to Ripley's Aquarium? Do we go to the Madison Bar? And like, we have so many options that we can do. And then there was boat cruises and some amazing activities that we can really get our students to do. And that's something that I didn't have the experience to do at Brock. Like, there just wasn't that opportunity. There weren't, unless you wanted to go out to Niagara Falls, which is not super accessible because it's far, and so the TTC is a huge hand, and there's always something to do. Like, there's lots of different shows going on, and there's lots of different student hangs. And the UofT campus is ginormous, like incredibly large. It's hard to even fathom how big it is, but that means that there's so many places to study as well, and so many places to explore. I remember I would go on a bit of a scavenger hunt at the beginning of the year to find, because they have these the student life gives out free goodie bags of or exam kits or whatever it is student life is. And at Brock, it was I'll just go up to the cafeteria and get it. Here it's I have to travel 6 blocks just to get to the building, and then have to find it in the building. I guess there was a bit more adventure to finding that exam kit, and that was cool in itself as well. And I guess the good part about the physio program is that we're all in one building, or the medical science building, which is a 10-minute walk away. So it's not like I have to actually use those really far buildings that are across the other side of the street, or the city per se. But yeah, it's a lot of fun. And even as a commuter, I do live about a 35-minute, 40-minute subway away, but it's still very accessible. I'm still able to go to all the O month events. I didn't feel excluded by any means, so that was pretty cool as well. Just something I found funny when on your McGill episode, I believe someone named Max said that Montreal is amazing compared to Toronto. I'd like to invite Max over to Toronto, and we'll see what happens. I've been to Montreal, but Max, if you're listening and you wanna test your theory, just we'll see what's up. Toronto's great. Toronto's great.
I'm
I love
gonna
that.
loop Vancouver into that too.
Cool, Mike. What about yourself?
Yeah, it's been fantastic, like you said. It's funny because I think Toronto, the entrance, like going into Toronto, it says there's still like 2 million people, which I think is like very, very outdated because I know there's like way more than 2 million people. So, city of Toronto, fix your signs. But yeah, Sudbury, I don't know. I grew up where it took like, kind of 5 minutes to get everywhere. So it was a big change for me. But I live in Etobicoke, which is about, I don't know, 20 minutes from downtown. I mean, it's very easy to commute. Like people who are, I get a question a lot, like, how is the commute? It's very easy. Etobicoke, Mississauga. We have people from like Guelph that come in, which is a bit of longer commute, but they make it work. So kudos to them. But Etobicoke, Mississauga, Scarborough, doesn't take too long. Like there's accessible subways stations like right by, and then it takes like 15-minute subway. So it's easy to get downtown. And like Aaron was saying, when you first start and throughout school, like our presidents have put together some amazing events throughout the school year, which really brings people together, reinforcing that family environment at UofT. So that's fantastic. And like the downtown core, like I said, I was always more of a big city kind of guy, so I love it. I get together with one of my good friends from PhysioSchool. He lives about 10 minutes from me. We take the subway down. We hit up some good eats. There's a bunch of fantastic food places in downtown Toronto. There's nothing better than after a long lab, grabbing some ramen after and just hitting up bubble tea. It's fantastic. I don't know how it is in Vancouver. You got to tell me. Probably not as good as in Toronto, but I'm sure it's pretty good. But yeah, man, like, I don't know. I love it. I live with my girlfriend, so, we go downtown a lot, and the nightlife is fantastic, and everyone's super friendly, and there's a lot of things to do. You'll never be bored in downtown Toronto. So now I think Aaron's you guys are getting more involved with the labs. You're able to come down more, so it's a great time. Everyone's done at the same time. There's always big huddles outside, and everyone's just chatting away. And then that's when you plan to do things, man. Like you plan to go out to eat. You plan to go to the beach. Like there's so many things to do. You can do something different every day. So it's a fantastic experience, and I'm loving it. And I think I'm going to stay here for a very long time. So yeah, it's been awesome. Now Sudbury's still hard, but Toronto, it's good, man.
We love to hear it. No, Toronto is a great city. I'm not here to start the Vancouver versus Toronto or Montreal versus Toronto debate, but when you come by, we'll have a ramen off. We'll see which one's better for sure.
Okay.
No, it's awesome, guys. Just very quickly, Aaron, I know you alluded to it when we asked this question, but like, what type of PT do you guys want to be in the future? Area of practice do you want to get into? Aaron, we know you're a big neuro guy, but is there anything to add to that? And then maybe we can go off to Mike after.
Yeah, well, I definitely love neuro, and I'm already started thinking about ways to like kind of get in the field and really do what I can to contribute to that field and really, I guess, increase the quality of care provided to the patients who need it the most. And that's, I guess, something that I've been working towards, but I'm still very new, and I'm obviously at the beginning of my journey. So I guess we'll see where it goes and where the wind. But I definitely have aspirations to take on some sort of leadership role, and either in a clinic or in a hospital or anywhere, to be honest, where I can actually I guess, have my voice be heard and try to make some sustainable change that could make neuro PT a bit more accessible, both physically and financially. unfortunately, because those are some of the biggest issues that the neurological population faces, unfortunately. But it's just about seeing where innovation can be made and I guess putting the effort and the work in to have it be done. So that's where I'm going to try to be. I love physio, and I hope to be a good physio, but I also hope to be a good advocate as well.
That's great. That's great. I love that you're keeping an open mind going through it, right? You know, we know neuro's in the forefront there, but who knows? Things may change as we go, which is great. Mike, I know we've kind of talked about this a little bit, but I'm wondering, has anything changed? Where are you thinking of going in the next, I guess, month or so here?
Yeah. You know, I'm still trying to figure that out. I'm still on the fence. I got a idea, but I keep an open mind. You know, there's so many fields and opportunities for physios to work in, so there's no shortage of choice. But as of right now, I think I'm leaning towards, you know, private practice, MSK, and also part-time hospital work. I think eventually I want to specialize in like niche condition, like treating like TMD or something that people can come see me specifically for. But we'll see, you know, where the career takes me. And that's something that's good about physio, is that like when you graduate, you're not set in stone. Like if you start off in neuro, you know, you can, you know, 10 years down the line, you can switch to cardio resp, or you can switch to treating burns and stuff like that. So it's, you can always have a new experience, you know? So I'm gearing towards MSK, but you know, it's always open for change.
See where the wind blows. I love it. Well, we know whatever you guys end up doing, you're going to be A1 at it. Absolutely phenomenal. So we're excited for you guys, man. We're excited for you guys. Reed, any last words for you, man?
No, just want to thank you guys. Like, that is over an hour of so, you know, whoever got to listen to this episode and go all the way through, I mean, shout, thank you, send you an e-gift card for ramen or something like that. You know, you fill the pockets of the boys, but no, obviously so much. Like, this is a long time to spend on a Friday night, and a lot, and best of luck with whatever comes down the pipeline for you guys. And just like what Anthony just, you know, we're pumped to see the careers take off here.
Oh, amazing. I love it, man. And any last words from you guys before we wrap up here? Aaron.
If it's okay with you guys, I'd love to play a little tribute to, I guess, what kind of helped get me here in the first place. So I'm just going to go for it. Another day, another dollar to be made. Sorry, yeah. Shout out Anthony, Physio student Quinto Costa, because those were the videos that I would remember watching in my first year residence, which was like, wow, this is awesome. What do I have to do to be here? So thank you, Anthony, for making that content. That's what I try to style off a lot of my content off of, is just, you know, what do I wish I knew when I was in those shoes. So you Anthony Quinto Costa, thanks for having me. It's a huge pleasure, and I hope you learned from this.
Oh man, Aaron,
that's it. Thanks, guys.
Can't thank you enough, man. That's an amazing tribute. Really, really appreciate it. And honestly, I love seeing, you know, the position you're in right now, and, you know, kind of carrying it on. That's amazing, man. And Mike.
Yeah, man. I just want to thank you guys for having me on here. It was a real honor to, with, you know, two upcoming juggernauts in the physiotherapy. You know, I wish all the best for you two. I know you guys are going to kill it. And Aaron, it was a pleasure to be on here with you, man, and represent UofT, a great school it is, and represent the field of physiotherapy. And, you know, yeah, it's just been a pleasure to talk and pick the brains of you and the boys on here. And it was a great chat. I thoroughly enjoyed my time, so I appreciate it very much. Thank you.
Awesome, guys. Man, hour and a half of gold here. We really appreciate your time. All right, guys. So if you enjoyed this episode, please consider leaving a 5-star review. Maybe even write a little bit about us. We'd really appreciate the support, so we can continue to get great guests like these guys on here in the future. So we will see you guys at the next episode.